at the edge of space, calling us to fly away. You're gonna break my heart. You're gonna tear it apart. No matter what you do, I'll still be there for you. And when you call my name, I won't be far away. No matter where you go, you'll never be alone. Be alone, be alone. No, you'll never be alone. Be alone, be alone. No, you'll never be alone. Be alone, be alone. No, you'll never be alone. Be alone, be alone. No, you'll never be You're gonna break my heart. You're gonna tear it apart. No matter what you do, I'll still be there for you.
Cierto, cierto, cierto. Ok, chicos, pues ahora sí sean bienvenidos. Ya estamos en vivo, esperando lo que es la ronda número 3 de los combates. Anteriormente no alcanzamos, pero tuvimos a Ashton Cox, el cual ganó. Jugó muy bien. Ahorita vamos a ver contra quién va a ir la siguiente ronda, así que pues mientras esperamos los dejo con la ventana de espera para que no se haga un poco tedioso, ¿vale, chicos? O sea que ahorita regresamos.
Summer in the hills, those hazy days I do remember. We were running still, had the whole world at our feet, watching seasons change. Our roads were lined with adventure, mountains in the way couldn't keep us from the sea. Here we stand, open arms. This is home where we are, ever strong in the world that we made. I still hear you in the breeze, see your shadows in the trees, holding on memories never change. Can you hear, can you hear, can you hear my voice? Coming through, coming through, coming through the noise. I'm floating through outer space. I'm lost and I can't find a way. Oh.
Hola, ¿qué tal, chicos? ¿Cómo están? Sean bienvenidos. Ahorita estamos en ronda de espera, chicos. Exactamente nos queda 1 minuto 20 segundos para iniciar con la siguiente ronda. Así que vamos a ver qué combate nos espera en estos momentos. Hola, ¿qué tal, chicos? Ahora sí estamos de vuelta. Vamos a ver cómo empieza a funcionar el stream. Porque la verdad tuve ciertos problemillas anoche haciendo unas pruebas. Mi computadora se estaba muriendo. Así que pues, vamos a ver si se puede hacer el streaming o a ver qué onda, ¿no? Vamos a checar cómo va jalando ahorita. A ver, déjeme ver. Creo que se traba un poquitín. Ok, pero creo que va estable en lo que cabe. Pues vamos a ver. Si vemos que de plano se traba mucho, pues a ver qué hacemos, ¿no? De hecho, a ver si consigo, así que como está ahorita el Buen Fin, pues una laptop un poquito más potente que la que yo tengo. Porque cambié de OBS a uno un poquito mejor, más sofisticado, más completito para verlos todos. Pero creo que no lo reconoce muy bien. A ver, vamos a ver. Pues ya estamos de vuelta. Coméntenme porfa a ver si cómo se ve bien, se ve lagueado, se traba el video o no se traba. A ver qué podemos hacer. Sabemos que tenemos a Marcus. Vamos a ver qué tal, ¿no? A ver si va bien o va mal. De hecho, aquí en México son las 7:55 de la mañana. Estuvimos madrugando para traerles la exclusiva. Pero creo que sí está un poquito lenta la máquina, se está matando, entonces vamos a ver. ¿Qué podrá hacer? ¿Qué podrá hacer, chicos?
Exactly, Justin also with a second place at internationals, I believe. So both of them have really succeeded at the highest stage already and are now.
Mientras están los comentarios, voy a ver si puedo corregir un poquito este lag. A ver si se ve un poquito mejor. Así que ahorita regresamos.
Keep his dream alive of becoming this the international champion here in Latin America, and both of them are using teams that well reflect their playstyle a little bit. Yuri, known at least in the past 2 seasons to really stick to his guns, like figure out a team early season and then just stick with it, because that way he will have more experience than his opponents, he will have the practice that it takes, he will know which Pokemon to select in which matchups. However, at some point there might be like a potential for that too many players like figure out, oh, he's probably just using that team, exactly, so they try to counter it. And it looks like for this tournament as well, he will be relying on the combination of Groudon and Xerneas that got him all the way to a 2nd place at the Frankfurt Regional Championship, and I think also a top 8 finish at the Lille Special event. So yeah, two really great results with the same team, and yeah, looks like he didn't really see any reason to change it for this tournament.
No, he did that. You said a lot last season as well. We saw him using Tapu Fini and Cortana quite a lot as well. So those are the Pokemon he kind of sticks to. He's got his Venusaur Groudon core that he, like you said, used so well to get to lots of top place finishes here. And just interestingly, we were talking about Groudon previously, how we haven't really seen much of it. We've now got one up on screen for you, and interestingly enough, from a little bit of statistics, there's 22% of Groudon usage here at the event.
Yeah,
That's
so
not a lot.
yeah, a lot of players trying to shift away from using that Groudon, and yeah, I would say Groudon and Xerneas really the hot talk, the hot topic for a little while of the season, but now those Kyogre and Xerneas teams with Tornadus have really taken over. And yeah, it seems like Yuri, though, probably found a way to deal with those, as he actually lost in the finals of that regional championships that I mentioned earlier. He lost against one of those Tornadus teams, and it's just really, really difficult, in my opinion, for those Groudon and Xerneas teams to combat that Tailwind, and then also combined with a Kyogre that sometimes is Choice Scarf, sometimes has a battery to heal some HP, but it's really, really difficult to deal with that Kyogre once the speed advantage is in Kyogre's favor. So for this matchup, though, there's no Kyogre to be seen.
No Kyogre, but another Xerneas, but this time paired up with the restricted we haven't showcased so far. It's the Evital as well.
Yeah.
So we've got that XY combination going on here, and that's a Pokemon that, you know, is weak to opposing Xerneases, but if we see other Pokemon like those Lunalas coming up, you know, the dark typing of Evital is really going to struggle, put a lot of pressure against it.
Exactly, so basically against any team that does not involve a Xerneas, Evital is a pretty solid pick. But yeah, it just happens to be that Xerneas is the most used restricted Pokemon, or the second most used. And I think in this tournament, around 60% of trainers, 60 to 70% of trainers have opted to go with that Xerneas. So yeah, you really need to be prepared. And of course, a lot of the time also coming with that Incineroar, which is another Pokemon that Evital has some issues dealing with. But yeah, if you manage to get past those two, then Evital is a very strong choice.
And Evital has so many tricks up its sleeve. It can go for things like Snarl. We saw to great effect how much Snarl can do against sort of lowering those special attacks of Xerneas and Lunala. It also has that knockoff, and knockoff's one of those moves that in this current Sun Series format is incredible, because you're always going to knock something off unless it's been consumed. We've got no Z Crystals, we've got no Mega Stones, so if you are holding an item and you get hit by knockoff, you are going to be losing that.
Yeah, and I think those Xerneas and Evital teams are a little bit the talk amongst players. That they're a little bit of a toolkit where you don't really know what exactly their strategy is, because both the Evital and the Xerneas don't really have that great of a synergy, like once they're next to each other on the field. But both of them individually are just so strong that it's hard to cover your bases against both of them at the same time.
Yeah, but both of these players, they've got a few Pokemon sort of together on their teams. You've got the Xerneas and Incineroar we spoke about quite a lot, but notably as well, they've both got Cortana. So a Pokemon that Yuri did like using a lot last season as well, but particularly this season he is sticking with it. And again, that's a Pokemon that can really counter against opposing Xerneases with the Steel typing. Although it is a little bit frail, you can always pop an Assault Vest on it and boost it up a little bit more. And particularly with those Ultra Beasts, if you can get Beast Boost rolling, then you are such an offensive pressure on the field. You really have to make sure that if you're playing the Xerneas, that you've got a way to take down that Cortana.
Yeah, and here we are now finally in team preview. Cortana being so prominent or so strong is one of the reasons that some players have to opt to run something like a hidden or fire, for example, on their Venusaur. And yeah, here we have the teams. So for Yuri, it is going to be what we mentioned before: Xerneas, Groudon, Cortana, Incineroar, Venusaur, and Heatran. And on the other side for Justin, we do have that combination that is a little bit less seen in Xerneas and Evital, and then his squad is backed up by Incineroar, Cortana, Amoonguss, and Smeargle. So Amoonguss and Smeargle, two Pokemon that really try to draw in a lot of attention from their opponents with the use of Follow Me and Rage Powder. Then Incineroar, of course, Intimidate, always strong, and Fake Out helps both the Evital as well as the Xerneas to get their moves off, and then Cortana is just like one of those Pokemon that can deal with a lot of the restricted Pokemon. It is good against Xerneas, good against Groudon, good against Kyogre. So yeah, just a well-rounded Pokemon for this format.
Exactly. Little zoom in there on the Venusaur that Yuri's going to be rocking out with. Again, it's the little sort of Pokemon mascot we've got going on here at the LATAM International Championships. But interesting enough, looking at those teams, there's no terrain wars either to be fought. So no electric or misty terrain going to be stopping any of the sleep coming out here, potentially from Venusaur, Amoonguss and Smeargle.
Yes.
But Yuri here going for the Venusaur and Groudon lead. So the sun is going to be jumping out here, nice and sunny, reflecting what we've got here in Brazil, whereas Incineroar and the Xerneas is the lead for Justin. So both these players going for very classic leads with their team build.
Yeah, good call and good identification by Yuri that, as we were saying, there's no terrain and there's also no counter weather. So this Groudon and Venusaur combination is pretty uncontested so far in terms of that the Venusaur will be very, very fast and will be able to go for a sleep powder right away. Now, Justin, of course, does not want to let that happen instantly, decides to go with that Incineroar as its lead, and yeah, with the fake out pressure, Venusaur will think twice about attacking here. But yeah, if Alessio gave the Xerneas too much freedom, of course the Geomancy boost is always threatening. So Alessio might have to take a trade here, maybe wants to or has to just go for an attack, and instead of Xerneas is just switching back.
Yeah, Justin doesn't want his Xerneas to take any potential sleep or damage from that opposing Groudon, and we see his second restricted jumping out here with the Evital. The fake out is coming out from the Incineroar, going into that Venusaur that did not protect, so if it is holding that Focus Sash, that has now been broken as Precipice Blades comes out from the opposing Groudon. Despite the Intimidate it will have taken by that Incineroar, this is still going to deal a huge amount of damage and picks up the KO. Evital very handily flying up in the air, but to lose your Incineroar straight away, you've got no more Intimidate and no more fake out.
Yeah, and it's just the life or boost, so no choice band that some players have tried to use in the past to ensure that the Groudon gets the knockout on Incineroar even through the Intimidate. But yeah, this really gives a huge advantage to Alessio in the very first turn. Justin not really doing any damage besides, well, a little bit to the Venusaur and a little bit of life or recoil to the Groudon. And all of that, well, I mean, he got the Xerneas and the Evital in the field right now, but the Venusaur is looking still so strong, and yeah, Yuri really in a fantastic position, I would say.
Exactly. If you're Justin, you maybe want to try and get something like a Tailwind up, just so that you've got a little bit of speed on your side. I know it's only the Venusaur on the other side that's got that elusive sort of speed boost thanks to the Chlorophyll ability, but if you're going to fall victim otherwise to all of these sleep powders as long as they do connect. But instead, it's going to be the Sludge Bomb coming out straight into the opposing. Xerneas has not had a Geomancy, does get affected by the poison as well, so it has to take a huge amount of damage thanks to its special defense not being boosted and poison to boot as knockoff comes out from the opposing Evital into that Venusaur.
And that will knock off the Focus Sash, but didn't really matter since that was already broken. But Xerneas will take the opportunity to go for that Geomancy. So yeah, it looks like maybe if Justin can pull that off, he still might have a way to come back into this game.
Exactly, you've got your Xerneas Geomancy up, and that's always a great position to be in. But the problem if you're Justin right now is you have been poisoned by that Sludge Bomb. You are going to be a little bit of a ticking clock, and if Alessio wants to maybe try and stall it out a little bit, he does have that option.
Yeah,
but
Precipice Blades does connect,
it connects.
And will just knock out that Xerneas. So was probably kind of a risk here by Justin. Who might have said that, oh, maybe if there's a Sleep Powder or a Precipice Blades coming into the Xerneas, both of those are moves that can miss, and if one of them misses, or if they miss, then maybe my Xerneas can try and put in a comeback. That did not happen, so Justin is now down to his last two Pokemon. Only the Evital and the Cortana left for his side, and on the other hand, we have the Xerneas now making an appearance on Alessio's field. Yeah,
if you're Justin right now, Evital and Cortana do not want to be facing down against potentially a fire-punching Groudon and just fairy-type moves in general against that Evital. And I think Alessio has just come out here sort of really on the offensive powerhouse here, just not going for the sleep powders, not going for the protects, just wants to get as much damage off as possible and try and steamroll from Justin's team, who maybe will be trying to predict a little bit more and will sort of be them tripped over by the fact of overanalyzing what Alessio is going to do. Incineroar's jumping in though, going to get a good Intimidate off against both of Justin's Pokemon. They can't switch out, they can't reset this. As Leaf Blade comes out, goes into that Incineroar, going to do barely any damage as knockoff comes out once again from Evital.
Yeah, knockoff hitting for the Xerneas, so the Power Herb will be knocked off, but Xerneas is just going straight for a Moonblast, so no Geomancy here and no option for Justin to take advantage of that, but Moonblast will just straight up get the KO on Yveltal, and with Incineroar you have a perfect Pokemon on the board to deal with Katana, so I think it's pretty safe to say that Alessio will be taking this very first game, and it looks like Justin has to go back to the drawing board and really come up with another way to try and yeah, play out this matchup, because it seems like this Venusaur, just from the very beginning, was putting on so much pressure on his team. He didn't really have any way of stopping the sleep. He didn't really have any way of taking away the speed boost from Chlorophyll in the sun. And yeah, Yuri identifying that, just going with the Venusaur lead right away. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw the same lead coming out from Yuri in the second time as well.
Exactly, and Justin, I think, really was very in fear of that Venusaur, and he targeted it down quite a lot, went for the fake out, went for the knockoff as opposed to a tail with Yveltal. And I think that might have then limited his other Pokemon to take a lot of damage from the rest of Alessio's team. As you can see there, Kartana does get KO'd by the opposing Incineroar. And, you know, Alessio is going to be taking game one.
Yeah, and in a pretty dominant fashion, Justin really, as we were saying, tried to make that comeback with the Xerneas, but yeah, since Yuri's moves hit and yeah, Sludge Bomb and Precipice Blades are just able to knock out the Xerneas easily, there was no way for Justin to try and attempt that. So I think the Yveltal surprisingly did a decent chunk, knocked out the Venusaur and also outsped the Xerneas. And
so some good information there
yeah,
for Justin.
Got rid of the Power Herb, however it didn't really matter in this game, so maybe the Yveltal might just be naturally faster than the Xerneas. So that could be some sort of information that Justin could use in the second battle. However, for the first battle, that was really too much that I think he could have done, really.
Exactly. Maybe he needs to bring one of his more tricksy Pokemon like the Amoonguss or the Smeargle. And
yes,
with Smeargle, it could have any kind of strategy up its sleeve to help out stopping that Venusaur. You know, you could even have something like Crazy Safeguard on there. You just have no idea what you can do to shut down that Venusaur. But here are the teams once again. Both these players, you can see how focused they are. Like you were mentioning earlier, Marcus, they are at X and 1.
Yep.
Everything is at stake for them here. And if you're Justin, you cannot afford to lose this game, as it's really going to knock you out of the competition.
Exactly. And yeah, Yuri, we've talked about this before, currently in the top spot in terms of championship points in Europe. Of course, wants to try and defend that here, but there's a couple of other players from Europe that are trying to really chase him from the throne. Exactly. So he will need to win this game and in order to have a shot at staying in the competition. Of course, even if whoever loses this battle still can go over and play maybe for a top 16 finish, but of course the big prizes and everything that will be played out tomorrow and on Sunday, so that is where you want to go. And yeah, I think in Justin's shoes, if he wants to try and prevent that from happening, yeah, the Amoonguss or the Smeargle might have to make an appearance, because both of these Pokemon have the ability to just yeah, support things a little bit, maybe get off an extra hit here and there. Maybe if you call out a switch, get off the Spore, something like that. That is really what Justin needs here.
Exactly, as we discussed earlier, there's not really any way to stop sleep happening if that's the strategy that either player wants to go for. And I think if you're Justin, you're going to have to really think about how you can deal with that Groudon and Venusaur. Something like the Kartana, if you know Yuri doesn't leave with his Incineroar, then you won't be intimidated. You could do some powerful Leaf Blade action against that Groudon. And obviously you won't be affected by Sleep Powder, but Alessio has gone for the Groudon and the Venusaur as Justin has shaken things up, still sticking with Incineroar for that fake out, but has brought that Yveltal. Like you said, it probably did the most work in the previous game.
Yeah, a really risky player by Justin, or a risky lead, I should say, with Incineroar and Yveltal, two dark types. If you're up against a team that has Xerneas, usually you really do not want to lead with the Yveltal, because if, say, Alessio led with Incineroar and Xerneas, that would be disastrous. But now, looking against that Venusaur and Groudon, looks like Yveltal actually might be in a fine position to find those hits, and this knockoff doing a lot of damage. And while we're actually seeing a Rock Slide coming out from this Groudon, however, missing Yveltal.
Yeah, lucky going for that Rock Slide there, because obviously Precipice Blades isn't going to affect that Yveltal at all. But, you know, the Rock Slide didn't pay off. He managed to dodge out of the way. But if you're Justin here, you've done some great things with your turn one. You've broken the focus dash on that Venusaur, and you haven't been so scared by it to go for that knockoff straight into that. You've actually gone into the Groudon and started to weaken the damage that it can do. It's taken an Intimidate, and it now no longer has its Life Orb. So it's going to be dealing out a lot less than it was in the previous game.
Yeah, though with the rock slide damage, I think this might be some sort of calculation to play around the barrier or something, because I think now Precipice Blades might be enough to get the knockout on the Incineroar, and then Venusaur could go ahead and go for a Sleep Powder into the Evil Child, but it avoids, and yeah, this second knockoff should be able to knock out the Venusaur right away, as it does. So now if Groudon doesn't get this hit off, or doesn't KO the Incineroar, then yeah, Justin should be in a really, really good position.
Yeah, like you said, that the calculations going for Precipice Blades is much better to take down that Incineroar, and it will be retreating to his trainer. But Alessio also lost his Venusaur there. That Yveltal being so nimble, dodging out of a rock slide, dodging out of the way of Sleep Powder. This is just the risky play when you have not 100% accurate moves. Yeah,
pretty fortunate turns of events here for Justin. The Yveltal is still at full HP, he is still well and awake, but now 2 Xerneas hit the field, and now, yeah, this might be one situation where Yveltal really doesn't want to be on the field any longer. However, I think that Alessio would need to set up a turn of Geomancy this time around, because he's facing against an opponent in Xerneas, so he cannot just go for the Moonblast like he did in the previous game, because then the boosted Xerneas would just clean house, as the Venusaur is also gone. So difficult situation here for Alessio to maneuver around, and we are seeing his own Incineroar now make an appearance for that fake out pressure.
Yeah, I think this is a great switch. You're resetting the Intimidate that your Groudon took earlier, and bringing in Intimidate of your own against that opposing Yveltal, but most crucially, getting the fake out for the next turn.
The knockoff comes before the Xerneas move, so
gonna take the Power Herb. So
yeah,
if that Xerneas wants to go for the Geomancy, which it does do, it's gonna have to take its full 2 turns. And something we've discussed a lot with our 2 games here is about getting that Xerneas boosted up. And like you said, you don't want to go for the Moonblast, you want to also match and go for that Geomancy.
But
interestingly, Justin doesn't go for it.
Justin doesn't Gleam coming out here for Justin's Xerneas. And now, though, switching in the Incineroar actually means that Alessio can fake out the Xerneas of his opponent, and then Yveltal probably cannot KO the Xerneas in one hit here, so Xerneas should be able to get off this Geomancy boost, and I think that's exactly what we're seeing here. Fake out coming out, and yep, so what does Yveltal do? Actually, we now get a confirmation that it is a speed type between the yeah, fortunately for Justin, he was able to knock off the power beforehand. But now, what does this Yveltal do? If he doesn't go for something like a Tailwind, I think it might be very difficult for him to contest this Xerneas.
It's going for the foul play. It's going to target into that opposing Xerneas. Isn't enough to pick up the KO. Interesting choice of move there. Maybe he was thinking that the Groudon, or I mean, he couldn't. He had to go for the Geomancy.
He just wanted to get some more damage off on the Xerneas.
It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, but if he has Sucker Punch, for example, on his Yveltal, then that should be one way to knock out the Xerneas. So, yeah, there's still everything possible for Justin, but yeah, the Xerneas of his opponent is the one with the Geomancy boost, and that is always a scary position to be in.
Exactly, unless there's a Sucker Punch coming out here, this Xerneas, even at that low HP, can be really applying a lot of pressure. But of course, if you're Alessio, you are going to be aware that this is something that Yveltal often does like to pack. We haven't seen all 4 moves, I believe, so it could still yet to be revealed. Xerneas going for the Protector. I think that's wise from Alessio, just trying to scout it out, and we do see the Sucker Punch coming out there. As Xerneas on Justin's side does go for a Geomancy of his own. And I think now, if you're Alessio with that Xerneas, you are kind of stuck, because you can't beat the Sucker Punch at this stage. You do have to switch out, and then you lose your boosts.
Yeah. So this could either be something like a Flare Blitz trying to fish for a burn or a critical hit on the Yveltal, or maybe U-turn to get the Intimidate back and get Incineroar back in the next turn, and then get an Intimidate off, and then hope that maybe Xerneas can magically take the Sucker Punch. But Alessio decided to go for that Flare Blitz into the Xerneas, though. With the Sun Boost, of course, doing a lot of damage, however, not quite enough to get the knockout. And now I think Justin will be the one in a great position. Sucker Punch threatening the Xerneas, and then Xerneas on Justin's side can just go for a Moonblast, for example, to pick up the KO on Incineroar.
Exactly, and if that Groudon came in the back, that Xerneas would still be able to clean up, and we've seen the foul play as well on that Yveltal. So 1-1 once again. We're jumping into a game 3 here, Marcus.
Yeah, well done by Justin, who really identified that, well, my opponent is not going to lead with the Xerneas. Of course, he got a little bit fortunate there, dodging the Sleep Powder as well as the Rock Slide, but he only really got into that position because he made the ballsy play kind of to try and go for the lead with Yveltal, even though his opponent very well could have led with the Xerneas. So now for the 3rd game, it's a little bit of a, well, psychological mind game. Does Yuri now change it up from the Venusaur and Groudon, that if the Sleep Powder hits, he's still in a fine position, I think, even against the Evotar. But if it doesn't, then does he really want to risk going for only a 75% is the accuracy, I believe, win, or does he want to instead try to call out the lead of his opponent and maybe use the Xerneas up front?
Very true. Maybe going for Xerneas straight away as opposed to having it in the back. But again, if he does want to stick with his guns and go for that Venusaur Groudon lead, because Justin still struggled a little bit against it. He had to get those fortunate things with the Evotar being nice and nimble and avoiding a lot of attacks. So it does still give him a lot of trouble. And if you're Alessio, you might want to still go for that third lead, but maybe play it slightly differently. We've seen the Fake Out go off twice now into that Venusaur without it protecting. And potentially you might want to burn that Fake Out this time. Keep your Focus Sash intact so that you can still take that damage and get that Sleep Powder off as long as it hits.
Yeah, one other thing now, we also got confirmation about all of 4 of Evotar's moves, and Yuri now knows that this Evotar does not have Tailwind. Instead, it already showed Knock Off, Foul Play, Sucker Punch, and Protect. So there's no threat of Tailwind coming up, so making that, as you were mentioning, that Protect play even more well.
It's less risky.
Yeah, exactly. It's less of a risk because there's no punishment in terms of like Tailwind or so like just being set up.
Exactly. Justin doesn't really have a way to fully outspeed that Venusaur, and it can just stay super speedy on the field and firing off loads of sleep powders. But we're going to be jumping into this game 3. The players are throwing out their Pokemon, and it's going to be the Incineroar Xerneas lead for Justin, whereas Groudon Venusaur is coming out once again for Alessio. So he's really sticking with that core. He loves the 2 Pokemon together. The sun's going to go up, and once again, that Venusaur is going to be able to go for some Sleep Powders or Sludge Bombs. Again, what is it going to do? Yeah,
just like in the very first game, the same leads coming out, and there we saw that Alessio just got the clean knockout on the Incineroar with Precipice Blades. Now I do not know whether that was a fortunate damage roll or not, but it looks like Justin's Incineroar might be a little bit more like maybe faster, more on the offensive side, but not as much invested in the physical defense. So Justin now, also knowing that calculation, might want to play it a little bit differently, not losing the Incineroar on the very first turn.
Venusaur getting its Focus Sash broken once again, and it's going to flinch this turn as Xerneas goes for that Geomancy. It's listening to us. It knows that it's what it needs to get in order to put its trainer in a great position going forward. But you do have to still worry about the Precipice Blades coming out potentially from this Groudon. Obviously, you are getting a special defense boost being the Xerneas, but that's not going to help you on the physical side. And if you get attacked by a Fire-type move boosted in the Sun or the Precipice Blade, that's still really going to hurt. And as we've seen, the Incineroar can also be KO'd, but it does avoid.
Yeah, that's the risky run when running Precipice Blades. We've seen it 2 years ago, exactly. And just doing barely below half HP on that Xerneas. So maybe Justin has a little bit of an advantage here now, knowing that, okay, another hit from this Groudon will not knock out my Xerneas most likely. So he could try and focus down this Venusaur now with a Moonblast. And however, of course, Venusaur, being a poison type, resists the fairy type attacks. So yeah, Justin though, after this miss in a solid spot, he could try and swap out the Incineroar maybe and to bring it back in later, but instead decides to just go for some attacks. This might be a Moonblast and Flablets combination. And potentially, if this pays off, he might get 2 clean KOs this turn.
Yeah, no protects coming out from Alessio at all. Xerneas manages to avoid, and like you said there, Marcus, Flare Blitz coming out, going into that Venusaur in the Sun. This is easily going to be able to pick up the KO, and Justin gets 2 KOs in that turn. Yeah,
it looks like that Xerneas is kind of unstoppable now. 2 Pokemon already gone for Yuri, and he probably knows it as well. Has to swap in whatever he has in the back, probably his own Incineroar and Xerneas, as those 4 Pokemon is really what he has used in the past 2 games. But now Justin is the one with a Geomancy boost, and it looks like, well, Yuri didn't have a very clear answer to that Xerneas lead. I mean, Fake Out just came out on the Venusaur turn 1, and I mean, even if that Sleep Powder hit, that would still have been 2 knockouts for Justin, and then maybe Yuri was planning to reverse sweep with his own Xerneas in the back, and that very well might have happened. But yeah, with that miss on the Sleep Powder, now Justin having the very awake Xerneas with a lot of boosts under its belt, and it looks very good for Alessio.
Very true. Alessio here, he can go for the Fake Out and get his own Geomancy up, and then we would just see this beautiful mirror of these 2 Pokemon facing off against each other. It's sort of one of the big traditions we've seen so far in this format. But then you are going to have to play that sort of game of which boosted Xerneas is going to be the faster and which one's going to be able to pick up the KOs. Xerneas on Justin's side does just go straight for the Protect, doesn't want to potentially take any damage if Alessio had gone for something like a fake out Moonblast. And the fake out did indeed target that slot, so Justin's Incineroar is going to be free to deal out a huge amount of damage if it does go for something like the Flare Blitz in the sun, and then put Alessio's Xerneas at the same kind of health range as Justin's.
Yeah, this should be a Flare Blitz going into the Xerneas, and so we're kind of in a very similar position with two boosted Xerneas, about half health, with the exception that Justin has two more Pokemon in the back and Yuri does not. So yeah, once again, there still is potential for a comeback, potentially there for Alessio, but at the same time, it's really hard to imagine Justin losing this one.
Exactly. I mean, when you have a boosted Xerneas, there's kind of always a way. But it is, I think, going to come down to whether Justin plays defensively here and Alessio can call it correctly, or if you're Justin, you could just go on the offensive here, deal out some more damage. But as you can see, that Flare Blitz didn't deal over 50% to that Xerneas, so it's not a reliable thing to go. If you wanted to maybe use the Xerneas to target down the Incineroar, you do still need something else to tackle down against that Xerneas.
Yeah, well, it's one of those very dangerous situations where for Justin, he's so much in the lead that he might really be thinking like, oh, how could I even lose this battle? So this might lead to, yeah, exactly, like overthinking the situation, maybe using some unnecessary attacks, trying to absolutely guarantee the victory. And Alessio is definitely a player that he will know when to take a risk or when to go for the Protect, and he decided to go for the Protect, and this should be a Flare Blitz into his opposing Xerneas, and if this works out Yuri's way, then yeah, I mean, if there's a Xerneas, there's always a way for a comeback.
There certainly is. It's no longer a Rock Slide, it's a Xerneas that you need, as Incineroar goes for the U-turn on Justin's side. I think this is a great play by him. It doesn't pick up the KO against the opposing Incineroar, does actually proc the berry, but when you have a Xerneas, you can still easily deal with that. But it does mean that Justin's able to bring his Incineroar into the back so that he can use fake out again later on.
Yep.
Intimidate's not the big thing, but it is all about the fake out, particularly if you can time it for when Alessio Xerneas is maybe just protected, and it's then unlikely to get the protect on the next turn.
Yeah, and the Xerneas just protected for Alessio, so even if this Flare Blitz knocked out the Xerneas of Justin, then I would assume that Incineroar just comes back and maybe a fake out and leaf that combination would be able to knock out the Xerneas on Alessio's side. So yeah, that's one of those moments where then the potential for a double protect could come into play. And yeah, I mean, Justin's not out of the woods yet. As you were saying, that U-turn play was very clever. Now resetting the fake out, and Xerneas on Alessio's side just protected. So probably has to try and attempt for the double protect. And yeah, Justin though is still with a healthy Cortana on the field as well. And yeah, still looking to be in a good position. But if his last Pokemon is an Yveltal, Yveltal doesn't really do very well against Xerneas, yeah, or against Incineroar. So it's really on that Cortana's shoulders.
Yeah, going for the double doesn't quite get it, as Incineroar does go for the fake out, targeting down into that Xerneas, and I believe anything coming out from the opposing Cortana later will be able to pick that up, but actually targets
just
down the Incineroar.
Yeah, that's the safer play here. Even with the double protect, there was no way that this Xerneas, yeah, is able to get the comeback on his own. So knocking out the Incineroar, so all that chip damage that happened before, the doesn't mean the U-turn, and then the self-inflicted recoil from Flare Blitz from that Incineroar make it so that Cortana's Sacred Sword is just enough to get the knockout. It's a pretty rare sight because usually Cortana always intimidated when facing against that Incineroar, but it does have that move to do a lot of damage back. But yeah, Moonblast not enough to get the KO, and Smart Strike will be able to knock out Alessio's last Pokemon, and so Justin winning this, turning it around, will advance to 3-1, and Alessio, unfortunately for him, falls back down to only a 2-2 record, and yeah, is kind of eliminated from the potential of making it into the top cut.
Yeah, you can see him there. He's quite disappointed by that, but if I know Alessio, he's going to be able to come back from this and come back stronger. Don't know whether he'll change up his team too much. We all know how much he loves that core. But if you're Justin here, like, huge congratulations to him. You were coming in at X1, you lost game 1 in quite a commanding fashion. Alessio came out and just swept through Justin's team, and he managed to completely regroup, knew that maybe Alessio, he could read the player maybe a little bit more, and knew that he would stick to his guns of that Venusaur and Groudon, and was just able to come up with a perfect strategy to come around it. Yes, there was a little bit of risk and sort of good fortune in there as well, but that's Pokemon, and that is ultimately what these players are fully aware of and embrace.
Yeah, exactly, and it's one of those teams that Yuri really has where you sometimes need the best of 3 to maybe land the moves 2 out of 3 times, but
Very
this time
true.
it kind of worked a little bit against him, as the first game, he won, and then for the second and third game, unfortunately, the moves didn't click anymore, and wasn't able to land the attacks, but of course Justin also playing really well, so will advance to a 3-1 record.
He certainly will, and I think as well this game just strengthened the theory that we keep talking about, Marcos, that boosted Xerneas is the key, and every time you manage to get it boosted up, it gave you an out potentially there with Alessio, but it also gave you such power and domination throughout that game.
Yeah. And now for Alessio, it might be difficult to still claim that #1 spot on the championship points ladder. So any of those other players that are around here from Europe might try to get some more points than him here at this tournament, and maybe put themselves into the top 4, of course, of the championship points ladder. Yeah, going into this round 4, actually, we do have a couple of records. We don't know how they did in round 4. We'll have to find that out later on once all the games have concluded. But just to have a little look, you've got Jeremy Rodriguez, Melvin Carr, Ethan French from UK. It's his first year in Masters, and he's at 3-0. Yep, or he was at 3-0 going into this round.
Yep, so we don't know whether he's now 4-0. Yeah, exactly. So that's an incredible record for him. And then some other players, James Beck, Angel Miranda, again at 3-0. Exactly, and then also Michele Gavelli, Paul Ruiz, our world champion, Eduardo Cunha, and Ashton Cox, as we saw in the previous round. So a lot of well-known names there, still unbeaten. Of course, a couple of them also had to play against each other, so not all of them can be at 4-0 now. But it looks like we're looking towards and probably a little bit more international top cut, but that is of course also the joy of an international. Exactly, that is what we have here. So many players coming in from the different regions, and there can only be, of course, one victor in the end. And in the battle that we just saw, of course, Justin was the one who came. Now we haven't really touched upon this topic at all, but since winning the regionals, it seems like he tried, or he wanted to stick with the Evotal that he used there at the regional, but really changed out a lot of the other stuff. Of course, most notably that Toxicroak that he piloted to a regional championships. Yeah, he made that famous in the format at the moment. But interestingly as well, we've talked about the previous winners with Ashton and then Carson. They were both from the United States. And we've just seen Justin here as well. You know, he's going to be probably trying to carry that through for the US and try and get the victory here once again. Whereas the atmosphere in here, you've got a lot of sort of home nation here. There's a lot of LATAM players really trying to take this home for their region. Exactly, but then as there are so many great players coming in from the other regions, it's of course always difficult to try and defend your own international because, well, it's not your own, I mean, it's international, so everyone can come and compete, and that is what these players are doing. So we're just waiting for the winner's interview, I believe, with Justin, that will be set up in a bit, and we can take the time and maybe have another look at those statistics that we talked about earlier. Yeah, I believe, the usage statistics. To no surprise, Incineroar is there at 89% usage in today's tournament. Not quite breaking the 90, maybe it's slightly on the come down. Yes. But either way, it is very much the dominant Pokemon at the moment. Yeah. And then, as that Xerneas that we've talked about so much, of course, you might wonder, oh no, is Xerneas really everywhere? I mean, it's on 60% of the teams. So there's still a couple of players that do not use it, but maybe we could try to talk to Justin about a little bit about his thought process, choosing this team, choosing the Evotal in a metagame that is so full of Xerneas. So let's kick it to the stage with the winner's interview with Justin.
Hello Pokemon trainers, and I have the pleasure to be here joined with our last round winner, Justin Burns. How are you doing? Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm feeling pretty good after that match. Yuri's a really strong player, and I've had to play a lot of good players today, so I'm happy to be 3-1 in such a stacked field.
You've got a few more rounds to go, but you're still feeling confident going into the rest of the tournament. Think that you can make cut?
Yeah, I think if I can play well these next few rounds, I can, get top cut or maybe top 16. I just really like to get points from this tournament, but top cutting would also be nice.
Yeah. One of the things that I really admired about your season so far as well, you had that really popular build that you were playing earlier in the season, and you won the Philadelphia Regional Championships with the Veltal and the Kyogre But today you went for something a little bit different in the Xerneas Yveltal. Is there much reasoning why you changed up from what you were playing previously?
Well, I was having a bit of trouble preparing for this tournament, and my friend actually helped me out. He built the team, but I do really like the combination of Kartana, Incineroar, and Xerneas. I think that was something that I've been experimenting with, ever since Philadelphia, and I think Yveltal complements that really well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting combination to play, and it's one that I've personally tried, and I'm sure many of you at home have tried that build between the Yveltal and the Xerneas, and it's something that I can never really get there to work. It just feels really like you're missing certain aspects, but it feels like with the build that you've got now, it's got all the elements that you really need for that to operate. Get the Xerneas boosted up, and then the Yveltal, which is such a strong Pokemon in this format, with so many Pokemon like Lunala, Solgaleo, and Dustmin, Cosma that are continually popping up and used to counteract Xerneas. It's such a good Pokemon to utilize. You haven't really gone off Yveltal all season. You've been really behind it all season. It's really nice to see as well, and you've had really good success with it. Do you think it can continue to do well as we progress through the end of the Sun series?
I think it'll be fantastic all the way through the end of Sun series. There's so many Pokemon that it's just so strong against. Like Kyogre, it can, get strong knockoffs. Groudon, it can, foul play, and it's immune to Precipice Blades. Really, if Xerneas wasn't such, a huge threat, Yveltal would be, the best Pokemon in the format. So, we're kind of lucky that we have Xerneas, because if we didn't have Xerneas, then Yveltal would just destroy everything.
Yeah, that's so true. One of the things that I would like to ask you for our viewers at home is, what would your best tips be and advice for preparing for these sort of events and team building and making sure you're coming into the events prepared so you can do well? Because you're such a consistent player, and it's really amazing to watch your progression, not only this season but over the last few seasons, and your finishes are just remarkable. Your resume is amazing in your VGC format, and I think it's something that a lot of trainers at home can take a lot of inspiration from, and if you've got any advice for them, I'm sure they'd really appreciate it.
Well, I think the main thing that I did, over the past few years is just, keep doing what you're doing. Just believe in yourself, keep preparing in the way that you want to prepare. It's important to be able to team build, to be able to, practice on, battle spot, and, learn from your losses. And, if you keep learning from your losses, if you play in enough tournaments, you're going to learn a lot. You're gonna win, but you're also going to lose. And, learning from those losses is really how you become an experienced, a really good player, when you get a lot of experience.
So amazing advice. Thank you so much, Justin. Is there anything you would like to add before we head off? Any shout-outs or anything like that to anyone in particular?
Not yet. Maybe if I get another interview, but I'm done for now.
It's been a pleasure, Justin. Thank you so much, and good luck in the next rounds.
or protected against other Solgaleos, for example, which is definitely a big deal. And it just is going to be an extra way to get even more energies onto the board throughout the game.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on with his deck, but meanwhile, Jorge starting the game off with his Malamar, 2 Inkay, and the Ditto Prism. The Ditto Prism is going to be really interesting because it allows him to play a few different things in his deck. It's another Inkay. That's really what it's here for.
Yeah, it's pretty much wanting to get as many Malamars onto the board is always your goal, so having a 5th Inkay is always a great deal for you. And he's had a pretty nice turn, to be honest. He's got a couple Inkays down, a few Psych Energy into the discard pile. He's had a really good start.
Yeah, Shrine of Punishment as well. And he actually plays one of Garb Odor from Guardians Rising. The Trashlands Garb Odor, the big bad of the format for a while. Robin actually is pretty familiar with this card as well.
Yeah.
Using it to take down the World Championships. And it's really non-existent in the field right now.
Yeah, and especially in Malamar decks. We've never really seen that combination ever before. So being able to see that incorporated into this list could definitely catch some people off guard. I wonder if it's going to be something that could be a stumbling block for Robin this game.
Yeah, really only using it with that Ditto Prism Star, but hey, why not?
We see Robin go for his opening Professor Elm's lecture, such a key supporter card. We've already said that word or that sentence so often already today because it is the turn 1. It's ideal for all these setup decks, and they really are just so strong now that you have Beacon to fall back on. He's got himself out a Mudkip, a Ralts, as well as that Ditto Prism Star, which has that almighty evolution. It can't jump straight up into stage 2s, but it can still evolve up into any stage 1 that he wants, so he has the option to get into Curliers, or he also plays a Marsh Tomp, so that's definitely something that he can be trying to opt for, and he's going to go for the Beacon to end out his turn here to grab himself a Tapu Lele for any option that he wants next turn, as well as a Swampert.
Yeah, a pretty good combination of cards here. If you looked at his hand before, you see like a Guzma, maybe a Rare Candy, and the Solgaleo GX, and it's not really much going on, but he went second. Yeah, I'm going to use this free attack to search for the exact 2 cards I wanted for next turn.
Yeah, and now he's in great shape all over again, and the one thing that was slow about Jorge's start was no manual attachment that turn, so it's going to be difficult for him to even start pressurizing this Alolan Vulpix, let alone anything else on the opponent's side of the field right now.
Yeah, and there we have no hiding it right now. Garb Odor comes down for Jorge there.
We're also going to see the escape board retreating straight into a Deoxys, and then we're going to see a Guzma immediately after. And then just a pass, trying to slow down Robin here because there's not much else going on in his hand.
Yeah, no real draw supporter there, and no energy to speak of for Jorge there.
That's really rough, and as we said, Robin's deck loves to set up, but it builds that board and tries to be as intimidating as possible. We're going to see he's going to Rare Candy up into that Swampert, get to use that amazing ability, discard 1, draw 3, such a great deal. He's also got himself a Stadium card, bouncing that Shrine out the way and also helping him search